A cocky bully crossed Clint Eastwood. Nobody expected this reaction. He thought he was untouchable. Loud. Smirking. Surrounded by people who laughed on command. And then he picked the wrong old man. The insults were public. The humiliation was deliberate. The danger was real. No one stepped in. No one dared to. Because they thought Clint Eastwood was just another aging legend. Past his time. Easy prey. They had no idea what they'd just awakened. And when the truth finally surfaced, the room went silent. Stay with me. Because what happens next changes everything. There are moments in life that feel small while they're happening. A glance held a second too long. A word spoken just loud enough to wound. A laugh that cuts deeper than a punch. This story begins with one of those moments. It took place far from movie sets and red carpets. No cameras. No scripts. Just a quiet afternoon that should have passed without incident. The kind of place where legends go to disappear for a few hours, to breathe, to be human again. But something was wrong that day. You could feel it in the air. In the way people looked away instead of intervening. In the way one man enjoyed being watched, and another endured it. The bully didn't know who he was dealing with. Or maybe he did, and believed fame fades, strength disappears, and age makes men harmless. What he didn't understand was this. Some people don't lose power with time. They refine it. This isn't a story about violence. It's a story about restraint. About dignity under fire. About the kind of reaction that doesn't explode, but lands. Because when Clint Eastwood was crossed that day, the world didn't see an outburst. They witnessed something far more unsettling. And by the time the bully realized his mistake, it was already too late. The cafe was quiet in the way expensive places always are. Low voices. Clinking glass. Soft music pretending to be background noise. Clint Eastwood sat alone near the window. No entourage. No sunglasses. Just a dark jacket, coffee untouched, eyes watching the street like he'd done 1,000 times before, on screen and off. He liked places like this. Anonymous enough. Respectful enough. No one bothered him. At least, not usually. That's when the laughter started. Too loud. Too sharp. A group of men stood near the bar. Mid-30s. Tailored jackets. The kind of confidence money gives you when it's never been taken away. One of them, tall, broad, permanently smirking, kept glancing toward Clint. Then he nudged his friend. "Hey," he said, not whispering. "That him?" Another look. A grin. "No way. He's still alive." They laughed. Clint didn't move. He'd heard worse. He'd survived worse. He didn't come here to correct anyone. But the bully wanted a reaction. He stepped closer. Too close. "You know," the man said loudly, "my dad loved your movies. Back when men solved problems with guns instead of therapy." More laughter. People shifted in their seats. A woman winced. A waiter froze. Clint slowly lifted his eyes. Calm. Measured. Unreadable. "Enjoy your coffee," Clint said quietly. That should have been the end. But bullies don't stop when they're acknowledged. They escalate. The man leaned down, invading Clint's space. "Careful," he said. "You might break a hip with that attitude." This time, the silence hit hard. You could hear the espresso machine breathing. Clint stood. Not fast. Not angry. Just, deliberate. He looked smaller standing. Older. The bully straightened, satisfied. "That's right," the man said. "What are you gonna do? Stare me to death?" Clint studied him. Not with anger. With assessment. Like a man measuring distance. I won't do anything, Clint said. The bully scoffed. Figures. And that's when Clint added. But you already have. The words didn't land immediately. The bully laughed again. Turned away. High-fived his friend. Clint picked up his coat. As he passed the bully, he paused. You ever notice, Clint said softly, how the loudest man in the room is usually the most afraid of silence? The bully stiffened. What did you say? Clint didn't repeat himself. He walked toward the door. That should have been it. But the bully followed him outside. The street was narrower. Quieter. No audience. You think you're clever? The man snapped. You think because you're famous you get to talk down to people? Clint stopped. Slowly turned. For the first time, the bully really looked at him. The eyes weren't tired. They weren't weak. They were steady. Experienced. Dangerously calm. I don't talk down, Clint said. I talk straight. The bully scoffed again, but something had changed. His voice cracked just slightly. And what's that supposed to mean? Clint stepped closer. Close enough now. It means, he said, you're trying very hard to prove something to people who won't remember your name tomorrow. A car passed. Wind moved between them. The bully clenched his jaw. You don't know me. Clint nodded. That's the point. For a second, it looked like the bully might swing. People across the street noticed. Phones half raised. Clint didn't flinch. Didn't brace. Didn't blink. And that's when the bully made a decision. One that would follow him for the rest of his life. He reached out. And shoved Clint Eastwood in the chest. Hard. Clint staggered back a step. Gasps echoed. Time slowed. The bully exhaled, almost relieved. Like he'd finally crossed a line he'd been daring himself to cross. But Clint didn't fall. He straightened his jacket. Looked up. And for the first time. There was no kindness left in his eyes. Only certainty. Clint leaned in and said something so quiet, the bully had to bend closer to hear it. Whatever those words were. The color drained from the man's face. His smirk vanished. His confidence collapsed. What? He whispered. Clint stepped back. And walked away. Leaving the bully frozen on the sidewalk. Shaking. Staring at nothing. As sirens began to sound somewhere far too close. The sirens weren't for Clint Eastwood. They never were. The bully stood on the sidewalk, frozen, chest tight, palms damp. His friends spilled out of the cafe behind him, confusion written all over their faces. What did he say? One of them asked. Why do you look like that? The bully didn't answer. Because Clint's words were still ringing in his ears, slow, calm, impossible to shake. I know exactly who you are. And if you touch me again, you'll spend the next decade explaining this moment to people who don't care how rich you are. The bully had laughed at first. Until Clint added one final sentence. You forgot something. I don't lose, because I don't rush. That's when the sirens grew louder. A black SUV turned the corner and pulled over smoothly. Not police. Not security. Government plates. Two men stepped out. Suits. Calm. Purposeful. They didn't look at Clint. They looked at him. Sir, one said to the bully, voice flat, we need to speak with you. The bully swallowed. About what? The man held up a tablet. Photos. Documents. Names. About an ongoing investigation, he replied. And a witness you just assaulted. The bully laughed nervously. Witness? I didn't. That man, the second agent said, nodding toward Clint's retreating figure, has already given testimony. The bully's knees nearly buckled. What no one in that cafe knew. What the bully couldn't have imagined. Was that Clint Eastwood wasn't there by accident. For months, federal investigators had been building a case against a private investment group tied to fraud, coercion, and laundering money through elite social circles. Quiet crimes. Untouchable people. The bully's father ran the firm. And Clint? Clint had been approached discreetly. Not because he was famous. But because he'd seen this kind of arrogance before. Because he knew how predators moved. Because he understood silence, and when to break it. He hadn't worn a wire. He hadn't needed to. He was a character witness. A pressure test. And the bully failed spectacularly. The shove. Caught on multiple cameras. The threats. Recorded by witnesses who finally felt safe speaking. The cafe. Owned by someone cooperating with authorities. The bully's laughter faded as the agents escorted him aside. His friends backed away. Phones down now. Faces pale. Across the street, Clint paused. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. By the next morning, whispers were everywhere. Not headlines, yet. But stories. A guy shoved Clint Eastwood yesterday. Yeah, and now he's in custody. He didn't even fight back. That's the scary part. Industry insiders talked quietly. Lawyers made calls they'd hoped never to make. The bully's name disappeared from social media within hours. Accounts wiped. Photos gone. Like someone erasing evidence before it could be used against them. Too late. Clint spent that night at home. No press statement. No interview. No smug victory lap. Just a glass of water. A chair by the window. The same calm he'd carried all his life. A friend called him. "You okay?" the voice asked. Clint smiled faintly. "I'm fine." "You could have handled that differently." Clint looked out into the dark. "I did," he said. "That's why it worked." 3 days later, the bully cracked. Alone in an interrogation room, stripped of his bravado, he asked one question over and over. Why him? Why Clint Eastwood? The answer was simple. Because bullies don't recognize danger when it's quiet. They mistake restraint for weakness. Experience for age. Silence for fear. And Clint Eastwood had spent a lifetime proving them wrong. Weeks later, the case went public. Charges filed. Assets frozen. Careers ended. The bully's name appeared once. Then vanished forever. Clint was asked about it only once, by a journalist brave enough to try. "Any regrets?" she asked. Clint thought for a moment. "No," he said. "But I hope he learns something." "What's that?" Clint met her eyes. "Respect isn't demanded," he said. "It's earned, or it's taken from you." This wasn't about celebrity. Or revenge. Or proving toughness. It was about control. The kind that doesn't shout. Doesn't swing first. Doesn't need applause. The kind that waits. And ends things permanently. So next time someone underestimates a quiet person. An older man. Someone who doesn't react the way they expect. Remember this story. Because sometimes the most dangerous reaction is the one you never see coming. If you felt the tension. If this story made you think twice. If you enjoy powerful, cinematic stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Because the next story, it's even more unbelievable. And you won't want to miss it.